Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live incorporating play into your business. And as we wait for people to jump on, and I'm actually going to come and add our special guest today, High Priestess Farah. And let me know if you are, where you are, what time zone you're in today. And welcome. And so this live, typically I do energy readings towards the Friday evenings, right? Like late at night. Today's a special one because we released a podcast episode earlier this week. And if you haven't tuned into it, feel free to go ahead to the link in my bio. And this one, we have a beautiful guest, High Priestess Farah, where we were discussing incorporating play into your business. And so we figured that we would jump on live today, keep that energy going, the momentum going, and really just elaborate on that. So it's going to be a mix of like intuitive messaging as well as allowing ourselves to kind of like really express like what did we like after this like recording was a couple months ago, I'd say a couple months. And let me see here, Farah, if you're here, let me know. As of right now, I'm not really able to see. Let's see. So we'll have like some intuitive messaging, personal perspectives, and then if anything resonates with you guys, feel free to always ask away any questions. So let's try to send this invite again. All right, I see you now, Farah. And, oh, perfect.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I made it. We're here.
Perfect. I was doing a small introduction, so I don't know if you heard it, but just saying how we're here today, we thought it would be a good idea welcoming in Libra season, as well as just like kind of elaborating and like maybe expanding the conversation from the podcast episode that we did. And I just feel like one, it's perfect. Today is Friday, which is like Venus Day, which Venus rules Libra, which is tomorrow. So it's like a lot of it, like, harmony, like relationships too, and like the beauty, right? And, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I've been thinking a lot about how today's the last day of Virgo season. I had my birthday a few weeks ago. It's my season, but I've been so low energy basically since Virgo season started. It's been about a month now. Just like been trying to pull myself out of it a little bit, starting to take some action on some things, but it's been very slow moving. And I think it's definitely been reflected in the astrology. There's so many planets that have been in retrograde. We finally got a few major ones out. But the shadow's still clearing for Venus and Mercury retrogrades that ended, earlier this month. But end of the month, those will be clear. So I've sort of just been like waiting for October. So it's feeling really good to get to start to celebrate this equinox. I had a little meditation this morning with a group of friends about it and looking at some events to do tomorrow. So it feels really nice to celebrate it in a really big way. This year and last year were the first years that I really got to celebrate the spring equinox as the new year, and noticing how much my energy picks up around that time. It really does feel like the time to launch things much more than January.
Mm-hmm.
And so thinking about it that way, I've been thinking a lot about how this is like the halfway mark through the year. And sometimes it can feel like there's a lot of pressure. I've been feeling some pressure, like December is coming soon, the end of the calendar year is coming soon, but really it's halfway through the year.
Mm-hmm. And like I feel you too, because I personally was experiencing something earlier this week, was like physically, like some sort of, I would say like detox symptoms. I don't get sick often. And then I saw it when I came on social media, like a lot of people were like going through something physically. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. A lot of like detox purging, which sometimes like they tend to say like during the winter season, if you're in a northern hemisphere, like kind of a slowing down of the digestive systems because of the temperature outside. So maybe like, clearing out things, right? And especially like with, fall equinox being tomorrow, like it has this, I feel like it's a very soft, now that we're here, like gentle, like supportive energy with like community, and like how we're not alone in like what we're going through, especially like whether like you're going through these like physical purging or just things that like the slow movement, but like, you're still treading on forward.
Definitely. One of the things I've had to keep reminding myself of and have been reminded through my community is that I asked for this slow pace. I
Mhm.
forgot to ask to release the impatience when the slow pace came. I asked for the slowness. And
Mhm.
yeah, I really have been feeling like supported by my community. I think astrology for me has been so validating because of exactly that. Whenever I'm going through these like weird funks and I kind of reemerge after a month, I'm like, sorry guys, I feel like I missed a lot of things. And everyone's like, oh no, we've all been like everywhere. Like it tends to be collective. And the more that I've been tapped into different communities and being able to observe that as I'm watching the astrology go up and down, watching myself react to it, it feels so comforting. There's something so calming to me about like, oh, it's not just me. I'm not losing my mind. I'm not doing something wrong. It's just the energy that we're in right now, and we're all moving through it, figuring out how to navigate it. So yeah, I'm feeling like that coming together for fall. Sometimes winter can be a little bit isolating, but I'm really feeling this people kind of tapping back in and feeling ready to like cozy up together.
Yeah. And I feel too like because the collective energy and like even more so now, like people are more into astrology, right? Like they're becoming more aware of the big three, and then even growing beyond that and like paying attention to the rhythms and cycles, kind of like just really helps you want to connect to the energy of the universe even more so, right? But then like also to each other, right? Because nowadays you wouldn't think that perhaps the person who looks like they're out walking in the street, it's a typical guy, right? Like maybe he looks like he's into sports or something, but he probably knows his astrology. Like he probably knows his like sun sign at least, right? And it's just really amazing that you can connect with people nowadays just like through this. And I think it's perfect just to like what maybe has been coming up for us. And I think a good question to ask, like starting off with, where do you have your Libra?
Ooh, yes. So Libra, I don't have any planets in Libra. Um, and I think I checked what my chart was, and now I don't even remember. It's so funny. It's like a part of my chart that feels like I forget about it a little bit. I don't have any planets there. Um, and let's see, it's actually right after Virgo. So it'll be my ninth house under whole house astrology, or my 10th house under a lot of the other systems. Notice it falls under that. So, and my midheaven's kind of in Scorpio. My sun is in Virgo. So it's that sign that's right in the middle. That's that transition sign between where I have a lot of energy. I feel like I have a lot of Virgo and Scorpio energy. And so I kind of think of it as this like transitional space. But ninth house traditionally is about expansion and travel and philosophy and learning more things. And I definitely see how I have a balanced approach to those things. I like to like learn about all sides of something. I love to connect with things that are really beautiful and about love, um, and like introspection. So I feel like that all sort of falls under there. And then 10th house would be a little bit more career focused, which would indicate I was an attorney.
Yes.
So having like Libra ruling my 10th house feels like lawyer stuff. So there's some energies in there. My mom is a Libra sun. So that's kind of like my main connection to that sign and how I view it and how I understand it. And the more that I study astrology and learn about Libra, I kind of feel like I understand that aspect of her a little bit better. How about you? Some Libra placements?
I actually don't, but I do have Libra in my 11th house. So for me, like, and I was like, okay, let me, like you, like, I pretty much pay attention, highlight the ones where my planets are, and I'm like, okay, this is where I need to, like, really pay attention. And so they were saying that 11th house is, like, community, right? And then also, like Libra being ruled by the planet Venus and like beauty, right? That also means like your environment, having a space and environment where one, it's supportive, like it's not a toxic environment, like one where you feel like you can actually grow and make moves in your goals and your desires. And then knowing something, a download that came from me today was that you don't have to go through things alone, which is like a topic we just started
Mhm.
off today. It's like, connecting with the community, connecting with the people who, align with like your values, right? So there's harmony going around in that space. And I thought that that's like nice because that's the highlight of what I'm supposed to be focused on, starting tomorrow. And like, okay, what is going to be evolving through, especially past Virgo season, which is more about like a lot of times like strategy, like doing the work. Sometimes I have a sun in Aquarius, so I rebel towards everything. I'm gonna do it my own way. I have another way to do it. And I find, but I also like it's ruled by Saturn as like the father, the like structure. And something I had to learn during like my first like, Saturn return, it's like not to reject it. Like especially with like connecting to your intuition, and like the creative aspects of you. It's like, okay, like all right, you kind of need some structure. Like we both like learned, through different modalities and things like that, trainings where like yeah, like structure, strategy is important so that we're going to direct that creative force, right?
Yes, I really like that placement for you, especially with the context that you're an Aquarius sun, because the 11th house is Aquarius stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Same energy as Aquarian things. And so it's about like being this visionary, having a real sense of community in a large sense. And then Libra's about relationships. So it feels like such a nice combination to have that energy of individual relationships within the community. I
Mm-hmm. Mm. I like that, the way that you put that.
And
um
authenticity and connections for sure. That's big Aquarius.
mhm. And I find something too, like that's the important thing too, like definitely not to sacrifice like your sense of individuality, especially in a group setting, group environment. But like also like not so much so that you are like one of my mentors would say like rebelling without a cause. Like you're just rebelling for the sake of, it's like, okay, what is the purpose, bring your uniqueness, your flair towards like the front, right? So that everybody else can also have like a shift in perspective, maybe help and expand their own awareness, maybe help some sort of nugget that you give forward that they can receive and gain too.
Yeah, that's really cool. It can be really difficult in like especially like more collective cultures that we look at. There's a hard time. There can be a hard time feeling like you have the ability to self-express fully. I definitely experienced that. I think in both of my parents' cultures, but especially my dad is Pakistan, and there's a lot of emphasis placed on conformity and like family harmony and what's best for the family. And sometimes there's a sacrifice made in terms of like being individual, feeling like I can really be my weird self if I'm the black sheep of the family, that I will still be accepted. And I think that finding the balance between the two of those, another Libra theme of balance, but finding that balance between like being able to have that individual self-expression and still be part of a community, and not only that, but like you said, inspire community members through your individuality and authenticity is like where the real magic is.
Mm-hmm. And like something that comes through is like not being afraid. And sometimes it's like you maybe have a lot of conditioning, especially because of like your culture where you grew up from. Like, especially something that's been coming up is like around the Latino culture. So it's like, you know, through, blood in, blood out, like we were together from like life to birth to death, but like there's so many nuances of that because of something I feel for particular souls in this lifetime that come through. Like you need to pave your own way, and you also have to release this burden that you feel like you have to take on someone else's like take care of them, like whether it is their decision that they made to do something or not to do something, or just other aspects that feel overwhelming, and you feel like you have to do this, like it's your role. But like, who says? Is it just because culture says? And like, to me, that feels so heavy for a soul. And it is another lesson to kind of learn to like, it's not like you can never talk to them, but to set very strong boundaries about what you have your own purpose here in this lifetime. And like, you can't just like let it go, throw it away, throw it to the wind because of another particular soul made their own decision and choice or whatnot. You know, it depends on the situation, right?
I feel that heavily. I'm the oldest child in my family. I'm the only girl, and there's just a lot of pressure to like parent my younger siblings even now. And it feels exactly like I said, it just feels so heavy. And I, of course, care about them and want to help them. And what I've kept coming back to is that I am not their parent, though, and it is not my responsibility to be their parent. And the best way that I can help them and be is to be a good example, is to like really pursue the life that I want as possible. And from that place, they will be inspired and I will be more resourced to be able to help them as well. And it's been challenging, like shifting away even that. Even as I say that, I say it sometimes I end up framing my own self improvement and success for other people. And it's so hard to separate those things for me. Like to be able to give myself permission to work on myself has been through saying like, well, this actually helps other people for me to help myself, and to really find that balance and own that. And that's great and beautiful, but also like I'm allowed to do these things purely for my own soul's fulfillment.
Mm-hmm. Which is like beyond everything. Like that is like what you're here for. You know, like here to explore your soul's gifts, your desire, whatever it is that you choose to do with your life, you know, which ultimately will trickle forward and affect others, right? Impact others, right? And that is something like so my heart definitely like resonates with you because like same thing. Like I had to be dealing with and it comes back and forward in themes because I know there's still an essence of releasing and standing firm and like no, like I will carve out my own way. I also realize there's themes like that tends to be maybe like karmic. So it's like, okay, if I don't like move that and shift that now in this lifetime, God forbid, I have to go repeat this in another way later, you know, and something that like had like someone today, it's like, oh, what if you have so much anxiety? And it tends to be because of the thought that you're holding and you the shoulds you think you have to do. And I say honestly, like sometimes work with like your higher self, your beings, like your guides to like just visualize, pray, speak, open up, you know, your mouth and like just say, like, I release this and I trust that you will watch over them, you know. But I also know that I have to like do me, you know.
Yeah, ask for that help from them. I always one of my mentors told me that like your guides and angels are always there to support you, but they don't want to overstep either. Like you gotta invite them in. You gotta let them know, like, hey, I'm available for your help. I'm open to it. I want to receive it. I don't want to take everything on myself because, like you said, it feels really heavy. And I think the opposite of that heaviness is play, which is what we talked about in
Yes.
the podcast. And it really is why it felt so necessary for me. I have a lot of like earthy energy in my chart. I'm a Capricorn rising. It can be very serious and a lot of responsibilities early in life
Mm-hmm.
and like parentification and all of that. And so I think that there's certainly an aspect of like missed childhood experiences or feelings of self-expression and freedom that are coming through now with me because of exactly this experience that we're talking about. And a lot of that also, the last thing I want to say about the astrology of the present moment is that as we start Libra season, right now we have our South Node in Libra as well, collectively for
Mm-hmm.
about 2 months. It moved there about 2 months ago. And that is about us all collectively learning this lesson of like trying to move away from codependency. You know, how can we have healthy relationships and be in relationship with other people, but actually um, move towards that Aries energy a little bit, which is where our North Node is, which is more about like independent action and leadership and not getting kind of lost in the crowd. But we want that balance of having community. So I think it's going to be an interesting month that we have ahead of us as we all move through Libra season collectively while that South Node is sitting there and we're learning to needed to find that balance between like seriousness and play and relationships and independence. It all kind of falls together.
And like, I love that you brought that up because now I see why. It's like I've been hearing a lot with people I've been working with, like relationships in many different ways. And something I remember saying, it's like, again, like relationships in South Node and like rewriting like the standard, rewriting the roles that you play or desire to play for yourself. We've been conditioned to, hey, my mid 20s, I'm gonna have a kid, I'm gonna get married, like, and that's the thing that we're working. I remember in my 20s, I was like, oh yeah, like, and now I'm like, no, I'm not ready yet to have kids. Like, I'm not ready yet. And and so it's like, like allow yourself to fully like rewrite the roles that you want, especially in the marriage. I know in our marriage, and my with me and my husband, it's like typical, again, example, Latino marriage. It's like, okay, the wife is subservient to the husband, or she's always like preparing the meal, like, and meeting that needs. But here it's like, no, we balance, we see each other equal, like we support each other. Like maybe one person's in a busy season of their life, the other one's going to support. And then when the energy moves, like we come forward and respond to that. And I find that that's so much more empowering versus you thinking you have to fit a role and it has to be a particular way. And it's like, no, we're here, we're rewriting things. And then also when it comes to like these shadows, right? Um, Same, like a lot of people, like I remember just when I was young, I'm like, oh, I saw like a magazine. It's like, oh, well, by the time you're 30, like you're gonna love, especially with women, like feel so confident in yourself and your body. And now it's like I do see this theme that a lot of souls like had to go through like taking heavy responsibilities when they were a child, right? Like they didn't get to have that like space and freedom to be creative, to play, and like to really explore things. So like I find that the theme is like, as we get older, like you have like adult money. You get to like just play like with your creativity, like how you want to show up. Even nowadays, the energy has moved in the collective where, like in a hospital setting, like it was, seemed looked frowned upon that you can like have tattoos, colored hair, and now like piercings, and now it's totally fine. That is normal. And it's like people tapping into the creative space of themselves and really allowing themselves to play, which I feel from a like health perspective, this generation, that is the key to like really tapping into that abundant life, because the older generation, just like the energy was very rigid, right? Like where was the space to play? And that brings it with it, like, more stress, or their quality of life isn't like optimal what they would like it to be. They don't feel they're always in pain or whatnot, right? And then now it's like I saw a video, which I probably will post, which was inspiring, like a guy, 76 years old, and he was in his dance class. Like he was dancing to like In Sync or something. I was like, bro, like just having fun, moving.
It's so important. It's really like the key, and it connects so many things. Like even when you talked about being having the freedom in your relationship to set your own rules and what works for the two of you, and like the experimentation that it takes to get there requires a play mindset. It requires a
Mhm.
mindset of like, oh, there's the rigid rules that I thought we had to follow. What happens if we like play around with them? If we change them? If we let ourselves play in that space and try different roles and try different things and see like what feels the most aligned, what combination of responsibilities do I want to be mine, what things are we sharing, like all of that. And yeah, I see so much of that rigidity from the older generation. Just my interaction with a lot of it is just like comments online. And right now there seems to be, what I've observed recently is a wave of people who get really triggered by adults who are playing, by adults who have interests that are deemed childlike. All this hate on like Disney adults and all that. Like, I think that I see so clearly that the people who are saying that, they're like, oh, go find an adult hobby. It's like they're just shutting themselves down and off from the permission to like the things that they like, to connect to things that maybe they didn't have an opportunity to like when they were a kid, either because of how their childhood was or these things didn't exist yet, like whatever it is. But I'm like, how sad that like you think that there's an age limit on having fun
Mm-hmm.
and enjoying whimsical things and colorful things.
Mm-hmm. And like an age limit to like when a woman can have baby, you know, or like so many other things too. And like just in general, like I think of like cultures, like the Asian culture, Japanese, they live longer because of the quality of like they smile more, they have more fun, you know, they're not stressing. Like and it's like allow yourself to like see question your beliefs. Like who says you have to be so stiff and I resonate with this too because like having like a certain background being raised and the way I had to like nurture myself at a young age, I do default to like the seriousness, the structure, especially with like my stellium in like Capricorn is like very like just very heavy in that sense. But my always download from the beginning for my spirit guides is like play, let it go, like have fun, like this doesn't have to be so serious. Like, and when you have that expanded energy within you and your mind and body, it's like I can call in and like what? Like the goals you're moving towards, meeting the people, the experiences. And I know that's something that not sure where you've been recently, but I know that this summer you were traveling a lot, right? And like just allowing yourself to meet people like we're in areas you didn't plan.
Yeah. Yeah, even now, I went to New York at the end of May, and we talked about this on the podcast. I decided to just take all my fairy hair and go to Washington Square Park. And then I've been here in Denver. I'm living in Denver. I've only been here since October. So everything is kind of exploration and new here too, and has that energy of like, I don't know what it's going to be like. And I'm trying to like create new businesses and new offerings and new friends and new community. So it's all been a lot of to tap into that bravery of like not knowing what these circumstances are going to be like, not knowing what these spaces are going to be like, but being open to showing up as myself and trusting that I'm going to bring fun. I'm going to be fun. I'm going to have fun because like I have that mindset, and it
Mhm.
has been fulfilling and challenging. It's sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know if I have the energy for that today. I think I'm just going to stay home, and I do that sometimes.
Mm, mm,
So it's about like having grace with ourselves and like being willing to explore out of the known. Sometimes the unknown can be really scary, but if you have that play mindset to it, like if you think about it, like a child, like so many things are new to them, so many more
mm,
things than there are to us, right? By the time we get older, we think we know how a lot of things work, but there's so much power in letting ourselves forget that a little bit and not assuming that we know everything and being okay with not knowing.
mhm. Yes. And something that comes to mind, it's like that I heard a friend say, like kids tend to like be the most connected, especially because right now we are about to go into October. Like what's at the end of the month, right? Like we have Halloween or I could never pronounce it right, but like Samhain, right? Like that, like Wiccan pagan holiday to honor like the spirits, and the veil is going to become very like more thinner, and like you hit the like luminous spaces a little bit more easier, I would say. And like for children, they're always in that state because they're in that state of play, you know, they're not stifling the creativity, so they're downloading, they can like, you know, I've always talked about this, but they connect to their imaginary friends, which could be spirit guides, you know, like coming to you at an early age. And like the more you can just allow that, especially this season, like to tap into that space, what are the downloads that are going to come for you, you know, like especially because coming from Virgo, a little bit more rigid, it's like okay, maybe more a little bit airy and expansiveness, things are going to start off, especially because it's a cardinal air sign, and then right before we go into like Scorpio season next, right? But I think that definitely, but like just this theme and permission, like, you know, working with the energies of the seasons coming through and being aware of that.
Yeah. And that reminds me that, like, for me, beauty, this theme of Libra, is very connected to play for me. I love to play with outfits and makeup and jewelry and looks. and
Mm-hmm.
costumes. And I think for a lot of us, I love watching like the cosplay community and the things that they make, and just this creative expression through art is so
Mm-hmm.
Libra.
Yes. And like tapping into like the crafts, even now, like right now, I've been getting like an inspiration to work with sacred geometry, painting it, maybe adding in some crystals. And I'm like, ooh, I love that because I love doing grid work with altars. And it's just another way to anchor that energy forward, right? And just giving yourself that, like, how else? Like, what other creative endeavors could I explore? And something we mentioned is like for the people who like label, like, you're just closing yourself off in terms of like, all right, like, do you really know yourself? Like, can you really know yourself more if you just allow to, like, what are, like, rather than saying, oh, I've never been creative or like, I've never done that before, like, what if you just tried it, try something new and what would it bring you?
This all makes me think about how Halloween is a perfect time. I mean, I think any time of year there's a perfect time to play, and I can always find an excuse for it. But Halloween is such a great one because for so many reasons, it's playful. You get to put together a costume. It's something that maybe you have positive memories from childhood, or it's supposed to be something that is for kids, but you can have so much fun as an adult. And yeah, I don't know, just like tapping into that and giving ourselves permission to like play in this season and see what that looks like. Oh, and trying on, I know that was the last thing I was going to say about the playfulness of being a character, of letting yourself
Mm-hmm.
try on different personas. And sometimes Halloween is like the only time that anybody lets themselves do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you just need opportunity for that and then find more.
And like, I would say definitely warranted right now because it's like the vision and the goals that you started, since, if you, depending on where you started at and set those intentions, if you're doing it all the time, right? Um, like, to go for the long haul, like, you don't want to feel burned out. You don't feel like, I mean, it's good to take rest. So you feel free to take rest when you feel you need to. But there's a difference between like, oh, okay, now I'm resisting, now I'm running away, procrastinating. Like, okay, we need to keep you going in the momentum that you've been falling forward through. And like, play is a perfect medicine because it's a stress reliever. Like, you tap into different energies, like to feel empowered, or creativity for new ideas, especially like you mentioned, like you're starting new endeavors now, right? And something you mentioned in the podcast is like you were at a point in your life where, like, at that season, because of what you were going through when you first left, the whole field of being a lawyer, right? Like, how you didn't have that creative space, mental space to even receive, like, what was that next environment like for yourself, your soul. Like, you just had to allow yourself to feel safe enough to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need rest and play to get that inspiration about what we want to create next. There's a really
Mm-hmm.
great way that I was taught to think about the doshas. I don't know if you're familiar with the Ayurvedic doshas. They're usually different types that, like, you can take a quiz and see like your body dosha type. But there's another way of using the tool that was really helpful for me to think of them as a cycle. So vata is air and it's the mind, and it's where you get all the ideas. So when you're in a vata phase, you're downloading ideas, you're getting all this inspiration, there's all these things you want to do. Maybe you aren't necessarily taking action on them yet, but you're getting the ideas. The next one is pitta, which is fire. And I think about that being more like my solar plexus. And that's like the action phase, and that's in the doing. And then the next phase after that is kapha, which is earth, and it's resting.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to allow yourself to move through all these phases, and they will continue to repeat. And what happens is often we can get stuck. So when we're stuck in vata, we have all these ideas, but we're feeling overwhelmed by the ideas. We don't know where to start. And then, or a lot of people stay in pitta for a long time because they're like, I need to keep doing. Like, if I stop, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, there's no time for rest. I need to keep moving. And then literally the fire, the pitta will burn you out. You need the kapha to rest, and you need that moment of like reset time, basically, to be able to start to get inspiration and ideas again. You can't just go back and forth between the kapha and the vata. Like, you need to have the whole cycle there where you allow
Mm-hmm.
yourself that rest and recovery time to create the space for the new downloads to come in. And so,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I found that like super helpful, and definitely play comes into that rest. Rest doesn't have to mean stillness or not doing anything, but
Hmm.
it's like taking a break from the seriousness and the intensity of the accomplishing phase, which is important, as you said, right? Like we need to do all of that.
And that's a really good way of like definitely paying attention to yourself. Like, okay, what energy are you in? Like, what are you feeling? And like, we'll also like think about what is it that you're needing, you know? And like something too that I find, because you need the harmony of play with all that. It's like I try to break it down too nowadays and try to be a little bit more diligent throughout the week, where each day resonates with like a planet, and then like what is the sign and the elements, and then also bringing in like womb wisdom, like my cycle in terms of the moon, like where am I at, and and then allowing yourself full permission, because now I'm about like a week before I go into my moon cycle, and I know recently paying attention, I get very Aquarian in the sense that I judge, and I used to like feel bad about that, let that emotion come out, but now it's like I see myself like judgy like today, or like getting a little bit more like in the angry like state of like, oh, this is good. I'm getting feisty. Like, well, let's bring it. Like, who wants to fight with me? Let's go. You know, because I'm normally not like that. I'm very like, we all need to shift the energy. Like, people can be very passive, but you can be so passive you let people walk over you, and yet you can be very like domineering, and so much so that you walk over people. So like, where does that harmony for you? And like being okay with that, and like bringing it out when you need to in certain spaces, you know? So that was just interesting. And I think that was a really good tip, because that just helps to bring awareness, like that mental or like the air energy. Um, with like Libra, it's like a mental state. Like, you know, you might be fluctuating, especially like if you're in anxious mode, up in the mind, and like not being in tune with the body. So, like bringing it back to anchoring and learning how to pay attention to draw awareness to that, and how you can work with the energies in that way, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah,
being
and
okay
maybe
with it.
this Libra energy, like you said, like it's an air sign, so maybe this is like the beginning of the season of like receiving some inspiration again. Virgo was a little more grounding. It felt more kapha. It's more about like organizing spaces, taking care of your physical health, taking care of your routines. It's a very like earthy season, and especially with all those planets in retrograde, it was a slow one. So now like,
Mm-hmm.
that air is coming in, and that air moves a lot faster than the so there's some opportunity for some movement and some downloads and play there. And I didn't realize how much Saturn you have a lot of Saturn in your chart with the Aquarian sun and then your Capricorn stellium. So like that can be really serious and a little bit and like very structured, really liking structure. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's really important to identify, where the strengths are in our charts so that we can lean into them, and then also so that we can find the balance on the counter and be like, okay, this is my go-to, this is what I'm good at. How do I also incorporate some of the opposite to help bring that balance? Which again, Libra loves balance. So it's a good time to
Yes.
find that. And the equinox is literally about, one of the days where the night and day is equal, right? There's just so
Mm-hmm.
much balance in all of it.
And that is like, and I think definitely like all the themes that we've been highlighting up and just, you know, sharing through today. It's like, I think it'd definitely be interesting to see like what 30 days from now, like, you know, 31, whatever, 32 days from now, like, you know, what comes through, what has shifted, you know? And then when it comes up to you, right? Because I find that it'll be always the perfect timing that you need to hear the awareness. Maybe you don't know the whole language of the astrology, which is fine. But like little by little, you'll see how the archetypes play out in your life, right? Whether it's within you internally or externally, they're always in harmony, talking to each other, talking to you, through you, around you. And it's like, okay, like a little shift has helped me. And then eventually you can work with it a little bit more intentionally, and then the shift becomes more expansive.
For me, astrology is one of those things that feels so playful. It feels very indulgent for my like inner child to allow myself to learn about it and to talk about it. There was a lot of shame. I feel like I'm still like unraveling like internalized judgment about being an astrology girl, but there's a lot of playfulness in it and also so much information. and so much value. And like you said, they're just archetypes. And so being able to understand the different kinds of archetypes and that we all have all of them and we all move through these seasons together. So it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
work with this energy. I love it as a prompt. It's why I've really enjoyed working with the moons, with the new moons and the full moons, because it's just a container. It's just a prompt to think about certain themes at the same time every year, basically. I'm like, oh, okay, now it's the beginning of Libra season, so I'm going to think about like how can I integrate those lessons from last season and bring in that new energy, bring in that little bit more motion. Like I said, I've been feeling so slow, so low energy. So I'm looking forward to a little bit of movement, a little bit of air coming through here.
Mm-hmm. And I find too, like, especially when you're new in your journey, like you're new to astrology, it's like, okay, like at first it feels overwhelming. At first, when I first started working with the signs, and it was just with the new moon and full moon and the lunations throughout the week. And I'm like, how am I even going to learn all this? Right. But in time, the more you stay consistent with it, like the more you pick up, it'll stay in there. Promise, like just allow yourself to have fun with it. And then you'll evolve little by little, right? Your desire to learn more and work with those energies will expand, and maybe you'll be led to a teacher, a sort of like course or book or something in a way that'll work with you, right? And I would say, like, what are your like offerings right now so that people know how to, connect with you, work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm primarily doing one-on-one coaching. I'm going to start offering individual sessions for people who just want to come see what it's like. And it's all kind of tied in with my other offerings, but we can really focus on doing astrology readings. I love doing synastry readings for two people, whether it's like a couple or a family member, somebody you live with. It's really interesting to see how the energies play together. And so I'm offering some astrology readings. And then I'm also doing these fairy guidance readings, which are really with the tarot deck. I use the Mother of Peace tarot deck, and it just helps us channel specific messages and like really help uncover what's in your unconscious also. They all describe archetypes again, just like the astrology. And so our brain does the magic of like filling in the gaps of, oh, this is my part of my life that fits this archetype right now. And then we really get to dig in and see what's under that a little bit more and how to work with these energies a little bit more. And I love sort of combining all of it. So I love when I know somebody's astrology and we're doing a tarot reading or we're doing a coaching session, I can really pull in that other information and say, oh, because you have like this stuff Capricorn, like this might be a little more challenging, or your tendency might be to work really hard on these things. And so yeah, I love to do all that. And then I'm also selling a few products, in person here in Denver. I'm doing fairy hair, these hair tinsel highlights. And so I've started selling some clip-in fairy hair for people who aren't here in person to get it from me, but need to be sparkly for some event. And speaking of creativity and just making things, I started making some jewelry as well. I started making these little ear cuffs, and I have them in a bunch of different stones. This is a little rose quartz one and a few different sizes. So I'm really just in that energy of playing right now with all of the things that want to come through me and
Mm.
this journey that it feels a little all over the place, but it's going to clarify, and people are really going to let me know also like what's resonating with them and where my energy wants to go as there's some momentum building up. But it's very much this pivot point right now where I'm exploring all the things and playing in that space, and really wanted to collaborate with people on offerings and discovering what it is that like how I can use these gifts to help people the most.
Mm-hmm. And I like that. That's why like we jumped on today. We're like, you know what, let's jump on. And I think it was a beautiful like conversation, honestly, just flowed very nicely. And at least for my part, I'm offering moonlit lunations, which is actually something that like came up with where you get a full like new moon, full moon, like where is the lunation going to be for you particularly? In the beginning of today's live, we mentioned where our Libras are in our respective houses. And the reason why is because those are themes that are coming up for you, for your soul, in terms of like what to work on. And when you know where the energies are going to be for you personally, like you can pay attention to your life and like, okay, rather than me thinking like things going, like, oh, haywire without control, it's like, no, it's been forecast, like I can go through it and navigate it a little bit more grounded, right? More anchored. And I also find just like also like you connecting to like your big three or a little bit more about in terms of your own astrology helps you to know yourself more. Where in terms of like, say you're a Cancer, your sign is in Cancer, your sun Cancer, and right now at work, your environment, hey, environment is all stressed out, right? But rather than you taking on those emotions because you're highly intuitive, you know how to put that internal and energetic boundary and recognize, okay, the externals may be in that way, doesn't mean I have to go with it either, you know? And so that kind of gives you a perspective on like how to show up in your life more grounded, strong. And then I am going to have a special offering releasing either like this weekend in honor of like fall equinox, but it's also going to be like mentorship work for helping souls connect to their intuition, especially when you feel ready to like explore your soul's gifts and really start to step out even more in terms of like, okay, I've been working with my gifts and it's like I'm feeling the call to step forward and I need that support. You know, we all need that type of like support, mentorship. And I know I wouldn't be here where I am without the people in my life, you know, and like definitely wouldn't have met you had I not like followed that like push and nudge to meet my people, find my people.
Yeah. It's been so amazing. I've met like the best community through Instagram and through following my interests, playing in
Mhm.
that space, allowing myself to like the things that I like, and um, being open to the guidance and help of coaches and mentors. You know, we met in a coaching program with another coach, and yeah, same thing. Like I think it's really opened up um, this path for me and the ability to pick up these tools and like support myself and know that and reach out to people, know that I have people that I can reach out to. I think it's so invaluable, which is reasons why I love being a coach and coaching, because I know how much value like I've received from these kinds of containers as well, and that kind of guidance and getting to talk to somebody one-on-one, having those reflections of things that I'm moving through, and just that validation sometimes of, like I said with the astrology, like it's not just you. Like we are moving through this energy, or this is something that happens at this part of the journey. Like all of that can be so comforting and validating and encouraging to keep going on the path.
Mhm. And then two, I would say, like I feel like once you allow yourself to really follow your passion, even if you have no freaking idea like where it's gonna lead you, like why, you know, but like just follow it. Like that spirit, your higher self leading you. And then also you will find even like today, I get messages from friends and people I've connected with in different containers. And they're like, you know, I'm thinking about you and like, oh, you know, like happy, like, you know, fall equinox, right? Um, I forget someone sent me a voicemail recently, and I was like, "Thank you for thinking of me because like you could be somewhere else, on the other side of the country, world, and I know I'm not alone. I have a soul sister, you know, brother that I've met, connected with, and it's just like the beautiful thing about technology. I find that you're like it is limitless in terms of the potentiality of the people you can reach in terms of like your business, like your purpose, and what you're here to do. So." Yeah, I think that was, you know, perfect.
Thank you so much. And this whole time I've been clutching this giant amethyst, by the way. And you know, again, like it feels so playful to get to like buy sparkly rocks and like
Yes.
hold them and put them out in front of the moon. And so I had to share that too. But this is
Oh, I love that. Oh my God. And actually something that I've been looking for like years. I was gonna wear a coat. I was like, let me see what vibe do I want to put. And I decided not to. But then I found something that I've found. Like I had like misplaced for years and it was in my pocket in the coat. And it's like the Hand of Fatima or the, you know, the himsa. And I'm like, oh my God, I love it. And it's just interesting, like what we bring forward just to be here present and what needs to be said, you know, the assistance.
yes, oh I love that. That's beautiful. And of course you like found, did you just find that today?
Literally, right before the live, like I found it in my pocket. It's like, finally, and it's not broken. So it's like, thank God.
The synchronicity. I know. I was trying to decide what to wear. I was getting ready very quickly for this live, and I think I ended up choosing the same dress that I wore when we recorded our podcast. I was like, I guess there's something about the energy of this dress. I wanted to be in these conversations. And it's so fun to just get to show up here and play with you, play here. Like it feels like my true this potential can be reached when my work feels like play, because then it's not a drag. It's not something that I have to force myself to do. It's something I am excited to do. I want to show up and be here and have these conversations. And the fact that like this is part of my work is such an amazing bonus. So I love it.
Amen. And like that's what something that shifted recently. I was like, this is like what I get to do, like for my job, like I get to connect with beautiful souls, like in the same like type of like, direction of where we're going in our life and perspectives, what we're moving in terms of mission. And then it's like, it gets to be fun and easy. Like there's no pressure. Even now I'm like, wasn't really worried, like, okay, let me be clear and all that. But it was just, it seemed very just right. And I just want to honor that. I'm like grateful for like just a space to connect today. And for everybody who showed up live and or watching the recording, feel free to check out, our links right down below that I'll put down in the comments for us. And definitely until next time.
Thank you so much for having me on today and having me on your podcast. I just feel really blessed to be connected. Like these are things that I want to do more of, and it feels so I feel very supported by you and by the universe that like there are opportunities for me to do this before I'm ready to like set up my own. Basically, it's like, oh, I want to have a podcast. Okay, the best way to start is to be able to share my story on your podcast and be able to talk with you here. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Take care.